Merry Christmas, people. It's Christmas Day 2024. Just down here on Undercliff Drive, just walking back to the car. Don't forget, if you're watching this channel, that there is another one. Steve Jones, Wild Writer. I think a link to that channel is in the description below. So follow that channel as well if you don't mind, because I'm trying to get that one up to 1,000. Whereas I'm trying to get this one up to 2,000. It's a lovely, murky, drippy start to Christmas. It's about 8:30 in the morning. I overslept a little bit, which is unusual for me. I think the reason is because I'm in the car overnight. I need to get up early. Well, it's not Christmas Day because I need to get to the cafe first thing to get my coffee. So I always try and get up about between 7 and half 7. Whereas today it was just about past 8 o'clock. Today the cafes aren't open, so there's no need to get out early. And it's winter. Well, it's not cold, so yeah, just a quick update on the car situation. It is not cold in there at all. I know it's mild anyway, but I would have expected it to feel slightly chillier in there. Quite the opposite, far from it. It's really warm. It's a much smaller space than the Bilingo was, which I was in previously for about 6 years. So it's going to be interesting to see when it does get cold, whether, relatively speaking, it's okay in the car compared to the Bilingo. I mean, the Bilingo wasn't a big space. It's a tiny little van, but it was bigger than the Citroen C1 that I'm in at the moment. So I think the C1 probably does trap more heat, I won't call it heat, more body warmth than the Bilingo ever did. So yeah, if anyone's worrying about freezing to death, it's not going to happen, I don't think, unless the temperature really does drop down. That's unusual. Some life down in the Undercliff, down this part of the Undercliff. A lesser spotted car. So we're on Undercliff Drive in St Lawrence. Bit we just walked over where I started the video is where it all collapsed about a decade ago. This bit of the carriageway was cracking up as well, but they've actually repaired it whilst I was away. Or maybe not this bit, but a little further underneath this van. They've put some new tarmac down, so the cracks are now obscured. Presumably they'll reappear. They've also repaired this bit here where it was slumping. So all the cracks have gone. Nice new bit of tarmac put down, so you wouldn't know that it's sinking. Don't think that's going to stop it sinking though, but it does make it safer to drive over at any speed. This is an A road, believe it or not, so whatever the speed limit is on an A road, that applies here. So people are allowed to drive quite fast up and down here, so they did have to flatten out the carriageway a bit, keep it safe because it's still open even though it's a dead end. And I assume the national speed limit on an A road still applies even though it's closed behind me. God, it's so murky. Cracking day. Can't see the sea. It's only about a couple of 100 metres over there, just beyond the trees. It's going to be a very peaceful Christmas day for me. This is one of the very few disadvantages of living in a car, is it's quite difficult to feel very Christmassy. Although somebody did very kindly give me a little mini Christmas tree, which I'll stick on the dashboard when I get back. Thank you for that, Avril. It's very kind of you. So atmospheric down here this morning. Look at that, it's beautiful. I can hear a crest, fire crest here somewhere. There's a blue tit in this elder, the closest spindly thing. I think probably in the ivy there's a fire crest calling. I think that blue tit is saying the days are getting longer, it's almost spring. That's exactly what the blue tit is saying. Couldn't agree more. Give it a couple of weeks and you'll notice the days are a bit longer. It's more noticeable in the mornings, I think, than in the evenings. But it's going to gradually draw out. Daffodils are beginning to poke their heads up in the Undercliff, in the gardens and churchyards and cemeteries, so things are stirring. The hormones are beginning to go crazy in the blue tits and the robins and whatever else. They can feel it's not far off time to set up territory. Obviously the older robins maintain their territories over the winter. Some of them do anyway. You get an influx in winter of continental robins. So there's more. They have to compress things a bit, but they still have small winter territories. The resident robins. But it won't be long until they begin to set up their spring, or mark out their territories for the spring. He says on Christmas Day it's flipping a month and a half away. 6 weeks. Mid-February we can say it's really feeling like spring, and the days will be a lot longer in 6 weeks. Very cool. Wild arum, I think. Is that what it is? Oh, sparrowhawk just flew up over there. Had a sparrowhawk at Monk's Bay as well. Yesterday that was, I think. Hazel there, you won't be able to see it, but it's the hazel catkins are coming out. There's a chiffchaff. Wintering chiffchaff. Should really be in Africa, matey. But it's the kind of place where a few do spend the winter. Don't bother going all the way south, just hang out down here instead. Quite frustrating when people do this to ivy. Ivy doesn't harm the tree. These tendrils are just for attaching onto the stem of a tree. They're not actually doing any harm. They don't go into the tree. They're not roots. They're just suckers, effectively. So they just help it to attach to the outside of the tree. So the ivy isn't harming the tree when it grows up like this. And it's a really good habitat for wildlife, ivy, grown on a tree, and people just cut them. Just crazy, really. So it's been done quite recently. Some of the ivy is still alive. But it does absolutely no good at all cutting off the ivy, and it certainly does harm from a wildlife point of view. So please don't do it. So these sycamores that have got ivy on their trunks, much better habitat because they've got the ivy. You can see the ivy's got flowers. Well, it's berries now, but earlier in the year it's covered in flowers, which the bumblebees love. And now they're berries, which the blackcaps and robins and that eat. And lots of cover there for wrens and blue tits, and there'll be loads of wrens roosting in this ivy. Whereas if you just have a bare branch or bare stem, trunk of the tree, you've got nothing, none of that, just got a bare trunk. So leave ivy alone, please. Thankfully there's plenty more of it. Quite why they only targeted one ivy. Right, let's go down to the bay, I think. Gonna have to make coffee in the car. Don't really want to leave, it's lovely down here. But I'm sure it's lovely down in the bay as well. Should be relative. Oh, there's some nice fungi there. Nice bracket fungi of some sort. On we go to Ventnor Bay. That's not the time. Well, Merry Christmas. It's beginning to lift now, the fog from earlier. Not much. Still overcast and a bit nippy. It's not cold, not properly cold. Very atmospheric though. So I hope you're enjoying this video about Ventnor and the Undercliff. If so, then don't forget there are 2 books I've written. One Bird Watching Around Ventnor, creatively named, and the second one is Wildlife Watching Around Ventnor. Just short books about the local area that are the subject of this video, available on Amazon. I'll put a link below for this video, and you can also order it from the library, and it's available in all major bookshops, both of these little booklets, and in a few shops along the Esplanade, like the Longshoremen's Museum and Lady Scarlet's Tea Room as well. But yeah, I'll put a link to the description if you want a slightly deeper dive into the Isle of Wight Undercliff. Then these two little booklets might be of interest to you. Just go onto Amazon otherwise and just search for Steve Jones and Ventnor and you should find them.